the houses on Kirby have never flooded before. And we saw water rescues, the Clarksville Fire Department doing water rescues on Kirby, on Concord, in Woodstock, and all over my ward. And I would have never thought we would have needed water rescues away from bodies of water.
That is a Clarksville City Council member talking earlier this month about the impacts of flooding on her particular district. Now, back in February, the city was hard hit by flooding in several areas, and ever since then, people have been very concerned about cleanup, and some wonder if it's even worth rebuilding because they don't want to be flooded out again. And we're joined this morning by the mayor of Clarksville. His name is Joe Pitts. Mayor Pitts, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. We've heard from some people in the area, and not just the city, but the county as well, sir, who are very frustrated about the lack of drainage as a result of the storm. What resources are available for those who are being impacted by the flooding?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having us on this morning. We've had historic amounts of rain, and despite what some may think, our drainage system is doing the best it can given the fact that we've had 300% of the rain that we normally get through this time of the year, and it's just difficult to manage that much water coming from everywhere. But I can assure the residents we're doing all we can to look at short as well as long-term solutions so that we can get back to a normal rhythm of life.
Mayor Pitts, there have been some people who've complained, and you've heard it. This is nothing new to you, sir. You've heard it there at the council meetings, and I'm sure in your interaction with the residents. They want the city to buy their property back from them so they can move on to somewhere else because they believe they are now living in a floodplain. Who determines what a floodplain is these days, and how are you navigating that?
Well, FEMA has a very rigid and rigorous process that they do flood mapping. They've done that in the past, and we are anticipating doing that again in the very near future, asking them to revisit that, especially with the amount of rain that we've had in the severe weather that is no stranger to this region, much less Clarksville. So FEMA will undertake that again, not right away, but we're dealing immediately with the aftermath and after effects of the flooding on those residents that have been the hardest hit.
All right, Mayor, let's talk about getting people help. What is the biggest need right now? How can people help you if they're watching in Columbia, if they're watching in Kingston Springs, if they're watching in areas outside of Clarksville and they're saying, hey, I see the need, what can people do?
Well, the first thing I'd encourage them to do is to give generously. $10 will go a long way, but go to the United Way of the Greater Clarksville region, which is part of the United Way of Nashville organization, and give. We're trying to raise private money to help offset some of the cost burden by some of the homeowners. They can also sign up to volunteer their time through Hands on Nashville, which again is part of Hands on Clarksville. And give of their time and time generously. So time, talent, and treasure are the things that we need the most.
All right, Mayor Joe Pitts there in the city of Clarksville. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning, sir, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much.